Hello, it's Richard here. I wanted to go through just play the whole Warsaw scenario on replay and just make some comments as we watch the battle unfold. And I think it would be informative to see how to see where mistakes were made and where I think things went well. So let's get it started. The first thing to note is that there is a substantial force of auxiliary units, and they are absolutely crucial to my strategy. I use them to help grab some artillery pieces and then hit a fortress that is far away from my core. A lot of other people don't really do that. I mean, I don't know if it's because like the units are kind of weak. I think that's true. They are kind of weak, but people are wary of using them too much, and I'm very abusive. Let's see. Here we go. We're making our move. Right now, I'm just trying to take everything out in the hinterlands, and that will set up my attack on the city. I'm spying some things out. Not a lot to say. I'm just moving in on the city, and I'm trying to do it in the safest way possible. So I do plan on assaulting. I do plan on assaulting this front, and then I plan on splitting my forces in two, pretty much right away. But they'll kind of help each other. Oh, this is the Allies' turn. Okay. So I'm just trying to dig that guy out. I use the auxiliary air force to de-entrench. I'm still not set up though to take that spot. Turn 3 is the earliest you can do it. I'm bringing the tank over because it's extra support to try to kill off a unit. And you're gonna laugh later when you see that this idea didn't work. That was my scout getting a feel. So this is the trickiest part, turns 2 and 3. Like, how do I approach the city in the safest way possible? The answer to that is there isn't really a good way to do it. Maybe if I had another armored unit, that would help. But my scout has other jobs to do, and I can't afford to buy another scout. This is an example where if I had the prestige, buying that other all-terrain scout would have been helpful, because it could screen my infantry from attack. But I didn't, so I have to do the next best thing, gradually move forward. And because I got the scout car, I could just grab it and just the scout car is just so good for efficiency. Just grab units, spy things out. I know it's safe to move that artillery because there's nothing in range. Now I'm just protecting units. I'm very paranoid about aircraft attacking my units, and so I already have 3 fighters at Warsaw because I don't want to take damage from the air. Oh, fighter trap. And it was a good one. I shut that plane down hard. So I should be in a position to dig that guy out. That was actually a good hit here, but I did not get rewarded when I attacked. I even did mass attack bonus, and I got no reward for it. My Panzer 1's actually held up surprisingly well in this battle. That tank, I was thinking I could bring it over, but the reality is that tank is way too slow. So it was a waste of a move. I still think there's questions of efficiency with units, but I think this is close to optimized, my plan. One thing you'll notice that's different between my playthrough and others is I have two 88 guns. I have a balanced core in all ways except for armor, but that will very quickly change in 1940. But because I have two 88 guns, I have anti-aircraft, and they're actually pretty good even through 1942. So I think I bring them along. I think they're very helpful. I don't have great armor, so they're also great for taking out tanks. I think that people that play these early war years should be getting two 88 guns. I think it is the optimal thing to do. And I think you've seen me use these 88 guns brilliantly, you know, scenario after scenario. I would buy one at Poznan if I had the Prestige. And you're going to constantly see my artillery is targeting the same spot. I am desperately trying to dig out infantry, so I target one spot at a time. I can't make a lot of progress against the city right now, because despite the fact I have 4 artillery, they're 7.5, which isn't very good. So I shoot for small goals. Can I dig infantry out and kill them? And you can, for the most part, do that for several turns, and in the long run it's very helpful. I need space cleared up so I can move my units around. I am preparing to assault the location that will get me another artillery piece. So I got my first artillery piece. I'll get my first artillery piece on turn 4. I was surprised the airplane attacked here because my recon has 2 air defense. I did more damage to the plane than the plane. Or no, I did 1 damage. But you know, I did as much damage to the plane as the plane did to me. That's not a good trade. This was another really good trap. I'm always just out of range. So what my Air Force did was protect me from attrition from the air, but I still took attrition from the ground. That was kind of frustrating. Because these TKS tanks are not that strong. It's kind of crazy that they just keep... You know, I have my infantry backed up by artillery. I think the problem is they're 7.5. If it was 10.5, I probably wouldn't have taken damage there. But I have I had to build my core a certain way. And artillery is important, but you can get away with certain things in the early war years with weaker artillery. Honestly, taking only 2 damage here was not that bad. It's annoying, but one of the dangerous units in the city came out, so it's not that bad. So now I need to take this location. It's 50-50 whether I'll take damage here or not. I don't want to take damage because I plan on using this force to hit the other fortress. You'll see that plan. I plan on basically putting a substantial force on every fortress so I can assault all the key locations at the same time. I think it's the strongest way to play this map. Now you get to see the power of the 88 gun. This is my most experienced one, that helps. If you don't have an 88 gun, you should get one. This opens up the path for my tank. Now I can take out another dangerous unit. And that was bad luck for me there. But, you know, some of these units coming out of the city is good for me. It's just easier to kill them. The poor plane is going to get whacked here. You can see I built a solid wall. There's that 88 gun showing up, and that frees my fighters up for de-entrenchment. .88 guns are very versatile. And I got a good hit. And I can resupply. It's brilliant! You can see I'm targeting the 10 strength unit because it's more of an obstacle to targeting the fortress. I still don't have my artillery pieces, so all I can really do are these pot shots. I'm trying to be as... I've taken so much attrition, now I have to be really careful about attacking. So I want to break this line, and then I have access to all parts of the city on this side. So people talk about how you can't really assault the city on this side without all the artillery. It's not really true. You just assault it piecemeal, one objective at a time, or one unit at a time. And by doing so, you're opening up a bunch of space to maneuver around and target key locations. It's the most efficient way to approach this map. This is me trying to bait the infantry out, and it didn't work. And I got a little bit more bad luck. But, you know, these units are coming out to play, that helps. There's a lot of units, it's really crazy. I still see like 4 cavalry. This is hilarious. You can see all of this firepower, right? I should be able to kill that infantry. You know, entrenchment's not a problem because I have de-entrenched it, basically. But these troops were incredibly robust. You know, I've attacked with, I think, something like 8 units, and I couldn't kill them. And that's despite the fact I brought the tank over for that purpose. But I prevented it from reinforcing, so it's okay. This is me doing something most people don't do. I'm shifting my forces back to hit the northwest fortress. I think it's very important to be attacking up there while waiting for everybody else to get their business done. I think it's a very efficient use of your time. So now I'm proceeding to attack another critical point. And I'm proceeding to attack another critical point. And it's not going well. My mountain units have been failing me. But still, I have a solid wall in the southern part and the northern part. But still, I have several units in the way that I need to break. Once I break those units, the way into the city is really open. It's just a merciless assault. Just keep attacking those entrenchments. Yep, yeah, now I gotta start refocusing. I want to swing my infantry back up north to help assault the city. I don't know if there's a battle in 1939 that highlights critical points as much as Warsaw. There's basically an endless stream of critical points, and you just take as much stuff as you can, and you attack it. Again and again and again, until you break it. And a lot of these units are heavily entrenched. Like, there's no other way to do it. You can't force your way in any other way. So turn 6, the pathway to this fortification is going to open up. I'm going to blast through here. So you can see on turn 6, I've made serious progress on the southern portion of the city. I didn't put my 88 gun next to the fortress because I wasn't ready to attack it. I'd rather have the artillery attack my infantry and fortification hexes. And they all have backing artillery, so they're okay. Now I have the conundrum of what do I break next? It's really difficult. I think this is the point where I'm really struggling to... I need to break these two spots, and it's not that easy. I'm running out of artillery, and my planes are de-entrenching other places. So you can already see I'm trying to hurt that artillery, because if I can suppress that artillery, the fortification is ripe for an 88 gun to attack it. So, I mean, I'm making serious progress here. This is going very, very well. I'm just taking a pot shot because I can. There's nothing else for me to do there. Here comes the support. Very weak support, but it's coming. So the last outlier area is captured, and now the real Battle of Moscow is going to start. Now you're going to see all these units come together and start assaulting key spots. If you look at the map over here, you can see I've got them surrounded, or I'm very close. Now I'm suppressing the artillery so I can safely assault the fortification. And now my artillery is the next critical point is the fortress, so I'm going to attack it. I want some suppression to help my 88 gun. And a level bomber is perfect for that. Level bombers are great. If you're not using them, you're making a mistake. I'm just going to keep, I want to keep damaging that artillery. I want to make it as safe as possible for my 88 to assault that fortification. And I almost wiped it out. Now it's safe for my infantry to assault it, actually. I made a mistake here. I should have assaulted the fort with the mountain unit, because then my infantry could have moved up and hit the artillery. It's kind of crazy I took damage there, but okay. You know, I've taken some attrition I'm not happy about. So this infantry, this 10 strength infantry, is absolutely in my way, and I need to dig them out. This is where the Air Force is useful. It's just a de-entrenching phenomenon. That's all they gotta do. That's what they basically do. After turn 3, that's what they do most of the time. I actually made some progress here. Now you're wondering, why did I do that with my artillery? Well, my artillery is actually backed by artillery, and a lot of the infantry is not very good. These are all like regular infantry, and they could attack my artillery, but I think they're in hold position, and even if they did, they wouldn't do much. Oh, a good hit. So I finally cleared out that annoying unit. So the next thing is I need to clear out the TKS tank, and then that entire front is wide open. I'm just slowly setting myself up. I need a couple more turns to really put the full pressure on the city. Yep, so I'm now officially beginning to put pressure up here. Turn 8. That's pretty normal. I just am not expecting my infantry to be so weak. So I need to get rid of the anti-aircraft gun because I plan on assaulting this part of the city. Because there's another fortress you can see. And I have so much artillery coming, it's crazy. It's going to be a wave of artillery. And I'm putting it on the weakest, where my attack force is the weakest. And it really makes a difference. So yeah, I have 5 pieces of artillery over here. I have 10 total artillery and a level bomber. So I basically have 11 artillery for this map. It's crazy. And you need it. This is really hard to take this city without boatloads of artillery. The city is basically surrounded at this point. Now it's just de-entrenchment galore. So, by taking the artillery out, that flank is really weakening. But there's still 4 pieces of artillery. It's kind of crazy. There's so much artillery. But now I'm starting to get closer to it. Okay, so by taking that TKS tank out, I'm now ready to really start digging into the city. But this is also the hardest part of playing this scenario. Yeah, I'm not particularly strong at city battles. I think they're extremely complicated, and there's a nuance with troop placement and allowing the AI to move units around that I don't understand. So strategically, if there was an improvement to be made in this battle, it's about turn 9 that I need to make an improvement. It would basically be the strategy of what to attack and when is it okay to take a risk. In my experience with Warsaw, it's never okay to take a risk. So, like, you see all those cavalry units? There's like, what, 4 of them and a 7 TP? Those guys are waiting for you to make a mistake and then attack you. So now I'm starting to run into this issue of I'm getting into the middle of the city. What do I do? It's scary. So this didn't work. You can see my auxiliary units are failing massively. The reason I'm attacking that is by getting rid of that infantry, it opens up the northeast part of the city, and I can actually start hitting some of those artillery pieces after that. You can see the AI senses something isn't right because they're shifting units to block me from doing that. You can see I'm just continuing to assault this location. Because once I break that, I mean, it's like once you break this region, you're nearing the end. You have a lot of cleanup to do, but you're nearing the end. Because you got all these, you got this huge force of artillery coming in. One mistake I made is I didn't attack with my planes first. So I took some unnecessary damage from that. I got a good hit there on the fighter. There's this annoying 12-shot, powerful, free-range artillery piece in the middle of the city. That is the biggest reason why you would lose a unit, because it suppresses the artillery backing your unit, and then a cavalry unit comes up and hits it. So This is why I'm really scared of pushing too hard in the city. You can see that my auxiliary units are just not getting it done. I was getting concerned at this point that I was too slow. I'm not breaking the positions. Yep, and I continue the assault. He's almost dug out. And here I come. So the pressure is getting real now. I want to hit the artillery because it's the most dangerous unit. If the artillery piece goes down, this entire flank is really vulnerable. Yep. This endless barrage of artillery. I'm attacking the 7TP because I'm hoping he keeps reinforcing it and not coming out to play. Because that guy can one-shot some of my auxiliary units. I'm positioning myself to continue the assault. What else am I supposed to do with those guys? So I'm taking a risk with my tank here. It's kind of risky, but he's on an open hack, so... And there's only one artillery piece that can hit me, so it either hits the tank or it hits the artillery. And my tank is probably strong enough to survive on his own. He's my defense hero tank. He'll be okay. That's why I did that. You can see I'm hitting this artillery. If I get this guy out of here, this entire position starts to fall apart. Next, I want to force a surrender on him. Oh, I don't have enough artillery for that. I want it noted that I'm on turn 10 and I haven't seized a single major objective. That's how hard this map is. It takes a while before you get a single major objective. Well, that was great. I took that out, that cavalry unit. There's only 3 cavalry left, a TKS tank, and a 7TP, which is still a lot. It's really dangerous for me to move into the city because that's a lot of mobility. And he still has 4 artillery units and 3 fortresses. So there's still a lot of annoying units left. It's, you know, it's not that easy. I was okay with my 88 gun here being in the city because I have 2 artillery pieces backing it up. And then for some strange reason, the AI moved the 88 the anti-aircraft into the city hex, and my 88 gun is like, well, thank you. That's just a cheap, easy thing to kill. I stupidly put my core artillery up front. I really didn't want to do that, but that's okay. Artillery gets experience really quickly. So you can see there's this incredibly annoying battle going on with this infantry in the hex. It took me like 4 turns to take out a 5 strength infantry, but I have inexperienced units that have been weakened from taking those other objectives, so it's seriously in jeopardy. It's putting in jeopardy the northern group. But it's a good thing that there's so much stuff coming this way. And you'll see I'm continuing to attack the artillery. Once that goes down, this is going to be very weak. Okay, it is time for me to assault the fortress. I mean, I've almost ripped open a whole huge line here. And level bombers are great. So the second fortress is taken down on turn 11, and that's basically opening up the way for me to get into the heart of the city. And my mountain troops are fine because I have double artillery protection. How about the 88 gun showing up and helping out? This is the last of the anti-aircraft, and that would mean my Air Force is free to terrorize the whole city. I've almost taken out another big artillery piece. I've repositioned because I'm setting up my 88 gun to attack the fortress. And notice my 88 gun still has double artillery protection. So it would be dangerous for any unit to attack it. I think that's very cleverly organized. The most dangerous unit right now is that 12 strength artillery piece. And I'm only now beginning to even try to assault it. Actually, this was dangerous. My 8th strength infantry unit could be in trouble if the AI attacked it. And there was my tank exposed without artillery protection, and look what happened. This entire group is on the verge of falling apart. That is not a part of the plan. They're so weak. You can see that the infantry attacked me and it didn't do any damage. These infantry in the fortifications on the attack are not that good. My 88 gun takes out the artillery. I took a pot shot. That kind of surprised me, but okay. My 88 gun has been doing well, so it's hard to complain. Notice that the AI hasn't really moved out. It's like protecting its artillery piece. Because it's hard to take the center of the city without taking this out. This is really smart by the AI. On the other hand, it means the outer edges of the city are falling faster. So it's, you know, it's just making it easier for me to come in with everything I have. So this tank's about to go down, so I'm bringing in another one. Everybody moves up. I'm bailing out. I'm getting my tank out of there because we'll get destroyed if I leave him out there. But you can see this group is very weak. It's barely holding together. So I'm assaulting the artillery so I can start attacking something. I think it's the TKS tank. Because if I take the TKS tank out, it would open up a gap around it. You can see that I'm bypassing the major objective here and here because it's too slow. I need to take these guys out. Once the middle is clear, then I can go back out to the edges. So in a weird twist, you assault the city on the edges to get to the middle, but you leave the core objectives alone, then you assault the middle, and then you assault the edges. And I think it's strategically the wisest approach. I think if you get too caught up on taking out all the objectives perfectly, you're going to be too slow in assaulting the middle. I'm actually starting to break this position because now there's an opening. I want to take this out so I can safely approach this fortress. By the way, I've only taken 0 major objectives so far, and I'm on turn 12. I think that's really funny. Turn 12 and I haven't taken a major objective yet. I parked the scout there to try to block buying reinforcements. We'll see how that turns out. I'm trying to damage the 7 TP so the AI will not send it out and it'll just keep pouring reinforcements into it. Because my units are vulnerable to a heavy hitting tank, as you will soon find out. My scout is fine because he's got 2 artillery pieces backing him. And now comes the counterattack. The attrition on my auxiliary units is getting critical. I'm really slow in the assault up here. The good news is the artillery got pulled up here, so this side is safe. So finally he moves this tank out. My scout did pretty well actually. But he ran out of ammo. But that infantry de-entrenched himself, so that's good. And that cavalry unit de-entrenched itself. So this whole position's about to fall apart because the AI was unable to cover all entrance points to this. I used my scout to kill it. Now he only has one artillery piece left. So the center position is extremely vulnerable right now. He only has 5 mobile units left and no artillery protection except for this tank. This is going really well. You know, outside of some annoying attrition damage, the AI just is not getting the powerful shots on my core units that it wants to. So I'm focusing on a cavalry unit on the riverhead. It did not work. A lot of rugged defenses in this battle. The good news is I'm in contact with most things, with most locations. Also, my auxiliary units are good bait, so, you know, if he takes some heavy-hitting units and sends them north, it reduces the pressure on this side. The attrition is piling up, that's for sure. But I need to start plowing my way through to that fortress. That was safer an attack than you think, because he was entrenched at 1, so the chance for rugged defense was pretty small. And now I take my first major victory objective on turn 13. And more importantly, an 88 gun is next to a fortress. And I'm very optimistic that that's going to go well for me. My opponent is down to 1 artillery, and so that's going to get a lot of my ire, because I need to get rid of it. The out of fuel tank is bait. I want this 7 TP to attack that, and not my scout. You can see that I'm just unable to break in. A very timely, good hit from my fighter bomber. And I got a very, very lucky hit. And that allowed me to close in on this location. Now there's a lot of juicy targets. The AI's got to figure out what it's going to do. I'm just slowly closing the news. That was a confusing move. I don't know why the 7 TP went there. My second auxiliary unit of 8 has gone down. What's surprisingly here, my infantry held up well. By taking that artillery out, it weakens the entire northern position. Alright. And there's only 4 mobile units left in 2 fortresses. There's still a wall of units. I can't link up with these guys. There's all of these units in the way. That was kind of concerning to me, but you know, if I start poking holes in those lines, I'll link up eventually. And I immediately am thinking, go 88 gun. Show what you're capable of. But that was a rather subpar performance. I really want to take that fortress out so it denies vision. The good news is the fortress cannot be reinforced. So next turn I can take it out. So I'm worried about mobility. It's not safe for me to enter the city wherever, so I need to take out the cavalry. Because the cavalry can show up and wreck your units. So next couple of turns is just take out that cavalry. You can see, if you look at this map over here, you can see them getting close to linking up. There's just a very thin line of defenders preventing that from happening. So now the AI is down to 3 mobile units. And one of those is about to die. Oh, I did a clever trick. I just pulled my 88 out and then attacked it. Okay. So the third fortress goes down on turn 14. Now my opponent only has 1 cavalry and 1 tank unit. So the middle of the city is falling apart quickly. I have almost linked up. I've almost linked up with the east with the west. Once that link up happens, you're basically in the clear because it means that you can move your units around almost anywhere. And the opponent is losing mobility here, which is good. Now the AI puts their tank in the city hex, but they don't even attack. I don't really know what's going on there. But my auxiliary units are barely holding the line on the north. Just in time for this huge mass to come. So you can see when I assault the city, it's a very delicate balance. I'm trying to use my units in the bare minimum combination to achieve my goals, and I think that what you see here is close to optimization. Outside of like crazy things with dice rolls, it's pretty good. I think it's the most reliable and safe way to assault the city. The areas that could be improved is precise troop movements in the city itself. That I don't have mastered. But I think that strategically, this is the best I've ever seen on how to assault the city. It feels very satisfactory because it's so it's like a maximization exercise, and I feel like I got it right. And hilariously, I was unable to kill the cavalry units. How many units have I just failed to kill this in this scenario? I need to take the 7 TP out, and then I don't have to worry about units moving across the map and hitting mine. Okay, then that forces the tank on the hex. Then I got a really good hit. Yep, that's the last of the mobility. Turn 15, that's how long it took me. So the only thing preventing me from linking up really is this guy. Once he falls, then I can focus on the outer edges. I got a good hit. So turn 15, I officially link up. All of the middle basically has been destroyed. So at this point, you know decisive victory is at hand because you only have the outer targets to get. There's no artillery, no anti-aircraft, no mobile units left. The most annoying unit left is the fortress. This is great. I love it. You can see that we've linked up now. Yep. I think a link up by turn 15 is really good. Then the AI helps me by attacking here. How about my very weak infantry holding their own? That kind of makes up for some of the poor rolls I had earlier. And once again, I put my core artillery up front instead of the auxiliary. But again, it's not a big deal. because artillery gains experience so quickly that it's, you know, you're at an experience cap of 225, so. And the AI just keeps attacking. This entire sector is now really weak because of that. So I've taken 8 damage to my core artillery. Now the good news is one of those is my captured unit, so I don't really care that much. This was not so good. But you know, artillery taking some damage is not such a big deal. Even in 1940, it's not that big a deal. So now, those objectives I bypassed, I need to turn back around and attack them. Oh, on a river hex, great. So now it's a war of attrition. Or not a war of attrition, a war of de-entrenchment. So the last of the middle part of the city units are destroyed. So now all of my ire is going to be very heavily focused on this region. But with so much artillery, these guys can't stand a chance. You can see my battle groups ultimately work very well. I still have my northern auxiliary battle group. I still have my middle units here, my mountain unit and my scout are all together. The corps that assaulted the western part of the city, the northern part of that is still together, and the southern part is still together. And you can see my units switch around their position from time to time. So all these battle groups did work well together. And it's not surprising that in the city fight I took some attrition. It's just really difficult to avoid being damaged. And the auxiliary units took the worst of it. With my planes free to attack anywhere, you know, I can dig things out. It's gonna get really ugly for all these infantry units. And it usually does take me a long time to take this guy out, because I focus on taking all these units out. Another hit on my auxiliary tank. I don't mind this. If the fortress... I don't mind wasting my auxiliary units on it. They don't really have a purpose anymore, because my core is exactly where it needs to be. I typically only use auxiliary units to take this, but I don't remember if I did that here. It feels fitting to sacrifice them on the walls of a fortress, and then my corps doesn't have to deal with it, and that it can focus on cleaning up. It's just crazy. There's so much artillery, and you can have it directed at one spot. Even the most entrenched unit can't do anything about that. Another key objective taken. Yep, we're just digging units out. Finally, at the end of the scenario, my units start doing lots of damage. I'm so proud of my auxiliary units accepting their sacrifice. It's just been brutal attrition for them. It's crazy, another whiff by my infantry. I got lucky my tank wasn't damaged. So I think there's 5 infantry left. It took me 18 turns to take that fortress out. The auxiliary units fought bravely. So I have one more key objective to take. But I also want to wipe out every unit. There's only 4 left here. I really like how well the battle groups continue to hold up well. So this is like the 3rd time in a row this infantry unit, this is my SE infantry on top of that, it failed to damage something. Right now I'm offering stuff up as bait to try to get them out of their trenches. I only have 2 more turns. More attrition on my auxiliary. But he de-entrenched himself. And he de-entrenched himself. And how about my Panzer I just surviving brutality? I wish there was a way to accelerate how long the AI was spending thinking in the replay. I made a mistake. I didn't realize my level bomber was out of ammo, so I lost some prestige there. So much artillery. Alright, 1 infantry left. At 1 strength. I almost killed it. So I was very pleased with how that went overall. Well, I mean, kind of. I took some damage on my infantry I'm not happy about, but I wanted to show something here. I'm tracking, first thing I'll show you is, I'm tracking prestige at the start of a scenario over time, and there's a couple of reasons I wanted to do that. I wanted to show that the difference between 25% prestige and 50% is really huge, and it's even worse with Deductor's mod because everything is more expensive. So I'm already tracking this from the videos, and you can see the differences start to explode very quickly. So most of you would naively think that if I'm playing at 25% prestige, then I should have about half as much prestige as a person playing with 50% prestige. And it's true the first two scenarios, and then it falls apart. I'm already playing at almost a third. This is really bad, right? It's like a 6th to a 7th, and it's going to get really bad. It's partly because I don't get as much prestige for surrenders. Every hex, it starts to add up, right? I don't get as much prestige for victories. I'm also spending a fortune on units, so that's a problem. The second reason I have this up is I want to compare myself to Deductor. And I make some notes up here as well, facts to know. These are the conditions that I'm playing under. You should know that I am playing with Deductor's latest version of the mod. It is different from the version he was playing with on his YouTube. And all of the differences are worse for me. So unit costs are higher. I think they're mostly the same, but there are some examples where they are different. So strategic bombers are overall more expensive than in his mod. Overstrengthening is more expensive in my version compared to what you see with his playthrough. Elite replacements are more expensive. I honestly kind of wonder what Deductor would have done, because I think that he didn't upgrade that until 42 or so. So he's got a lot of years where he was doing overstrengthening that I think he would be wary of doing after making his updates. Compared to Braccada, he's got way more prestige, he's doing an historic core, and he's blind. He's playing blind. All of that matters because he's going to have way more prestige than I will ever sniff. An historic core is interesting because it may limit him in some ways in terms of getting decisive victories, and being blind is a big deal. Everything in Braccada's playthrough is cheaper. Like everything. Overstrengthening, elite replacements, the cost of units, it's cheaper. So not only does Braccada play with a lot more prestige, but anytime he does something cool like overstrengthening and doing elite replacements, it's better for him. Also, there's a difference between overstrengthening with Deductor's mod compared to the original game. It doesn't really give you like initiative bonuses or attack bonuses. It literally acts as a surplus of units, like backup units. So you don't get any bonuses by overstrengthening. So a lot of people will overstrengthen their tanks in one shot, like an IS-2 from Russia. Those days are gone. So overstrengthening doesn't have the benefits it used to have. One other thing to note, he was playing on an older version of the game, so he has 150 less prestige. However, that's almost immediately made up for by the fact that I'm playing his strategic bombers are way more expensive, so I've already almost covered that gap by paying I think I'm paying like 100 something more for the dough compared to what he paid. So already, compared to him, I have more expensive everything. Well, not everything, but the strategic bombers are more expensive. So that gap is not a big deal. And you can see that I am running ahead of him every scenario. I'm ahead of Deducter every scenario. Part of that is because he didn't sell his SE units. So he got 2 SE units and used them. So he's not eligible for another SE unit until he sells one. I think that's silly. You don't need 2 SE infantry units to play 1939. But I'm going to highlight something. This is interesting and fun, and it will show some really extreme problems. I do ultimately want to show that I can accumulate prestige much more easily than Deductor. Not much more easily. I can accumulate more prestige than Deductor by playing smarter. And I will get more into that probably in 1940. And it's going to be about some of these facts up here. And by the way, I will be talking about Braccada's prestige spending as well. I think it could be dramatically improved, but we'll get to that later. The other thing that I actually think is way more important than prestige, unit composition over time is a big deal. I have watched hundreds of hours of Panzer Corps. I have watched Idleclease, who has a great complete Grand Campaign Rommel playthrough. A playthrough I would kind of call what a good average player would do to get decisive victories. And I believe he got a decisive victory in every single map. And he only lost 2 core units. And I don't really think he needed to lose those core units. So it's, it's a really good playthrough. I have watched Braccada's hundreds and hundreds of hours of Braccada's playthroughs. I've watched his Weimar campaign, Africa Corps, Soviet Corps, Grand Campaign. I think I've seen Manstein, original Weimar and Rommel. So that's hundreds of hours. I've watched Lieutenant Joker's. I've watched a fair amount of Lieutenant Joker's playthroughs. I have watched probably 60 to 70% of Deductor's videos on YouTube. I never got to Night Phoenix, but that's not available anymore. So I have watched hundreds of hours of Panzer Corps, and I have played hundreds of hours of Panzer Corps. And I have a theory, or I have some ideas about how to make the composition of the forces superior to what other people have done. And I might be wrong about this, so that's part of the reason why I want to track it. So I'm going to track, for me, unit type, how many of these do I have, which is indicated by that first number, then a colon, and then what type is it. So at Poznan, I bought a regular infantry, and I had 2 regular infantry, and I had a mountain unit. So I'm going to track the subtypes of each of these broad categories. And I'm going to do it every scenario. I want to see what shape my core is in every scenario. What does it look like? And I'm going to do this with Braccada and Deductor. I think I can do this. I think they cover that just well enough for me to track it. And then down here, one fun thing to track is total units. You can see that we're really close, and then Braccada gets ahead. But if you look at this, the relationship between the 3 of us is very similar. Partly because Braccada is he's playing with an historic core, and he doesn't want to like blow it up too much beyond that. He's not building a huge reserve pool. Deductor does not build a huge reserve pool. I honestly think even in 42 he only has like 3 or 4 units of surplus. So right now I'm behind Braccada, but that's going to change. By 1940 something, I'm probably going to be ahead of him in units, and I will definitely be ahead of Deductor. In fact, I've been ahead of Deductor the whole time, partly driven by the fact that I had 150 extra prestige, but by the time we get to Modlin, that doesn't matter. We're basically running near each other. So that's going to be cool. I have ideas about the kind of core I want to build. I have a theory about weaknesses in how people build their cores. you know, if we were to just, for instance, take a peek, let's just go, where are we? We're at Warsaw. I have 7 infantry. Braccada has 6. Deducter has 6. Okay. I have 1 tank. Braccada has 5. Deductor has 3. This is already a huge difference, right? Like, I'm basically mocking Panzer Corps by saying, tanks? What tanks? I don't believe in tanks. And the only tank I have is a tank that was given to me, right? So if you look at artillery, I have 6. Braccada had 5, and Deductor had 4. And I would point out that I have more artillery than either of them, but I have a lot of 7.5. They all, at this point at Warsaw, they all have 10.5. So I'm kind of cheesing it a little bit. I'm not upgrading my artillery so I can buy more. Why am I doing that? Because I believe having more artillery is essential to playing this game well. I have a pack just like they do. I have 2 88 guns. He has 1 88 gun. I forgot to include that. He bought an 88 gun somewhere. I think he did it here. Why did I forget to include that? Okay. Okay. Whoop. Don't do that. 1. Okay. And that actually means he's at 17, 19. He's actually at the exact same number of units as I am. He does have an 88 gun, but I have 2, and that's important. I believe that anti-aircraft stuff should get more attention than it does by even the best players. I have 2 tactical bombers. He has 3. Braccada bought a fighter bomber, which I think is a complete and total waste of prestige. And he also Deducter. This kind of blew me away when I was rewatching it. I didn't remember that he bought another fighter bomber. Huge waste of prestige, especially at this level. The fighter bombers aren't good after 42, so I don't know why you would buy one. So that's me, you know, getting a little elitist here, because I think it's stupid. I think fighter bombers, you don't need more than one. You're given a good one that can actually fight through most of 42 and is okay maybe in certain scenarios in 43. But, you know, I definitely think the fighter bomber is useful in the early war years. Deducter has shown that conclusively in his videos, but I don't think it's worth buying one. I have 1 strategic bomber. Braccada has 1 strategic bomber, and Deducter actually spent the prestige to get a he. But we have 1 strategic bomber. I have 3 fighters. Braccada has 2. Whoops. I think he only has... I need to check that, but I think he only has 1 fighter here. Okay. I think he only has 1 fighter. I'll have to check that. I wonder how he handled Warsaw. He might actually have more units than me. But I have 3. I have more fighters than they do. Now, what's interesting is you might make this mistake of assuming I'm gonna go for an air dominant playthrough. And I'm telling you that I will go for a reasonable number of air units, and it will be of a certain mix, but I am not going for an air dominant playthrough. Deductor kind of tried to make it work, and it did-ish, but I think it's very dangerous to go with too many air units. Braccada can get away with whatever he wants. He's playing on Rommel. So if he wants to build up a huge air force, I mean, at this point, he's got 3, 4, 6 units. And he has 3, 4, 5, and I have 3, 4. I have 6, but I only bought 3 of them. I'm never gonna buy a tactical bomber Actually, I'm never buying a fresh fighter or a tactical bomber. The only reason I'll go into those menus is to upgrade. And I'm only going to buy 2 more strategic bombers. So that's going to be a huge difference. So we're very similar, like we're very, very close, is what I would say, to each other. I want to explore this over time and see the differences. So I'm dominating infantry, 88 gun, and fighters. That's where I'm putting my focus. They are putting a lot more focus. Oh, and artillery. I have more infantry, more artillery, more 88s, more fighters. They are putting a lot more focus on tanks and tactical bombers. And in my opinion, in 1939, that's a mistake. And I do think by 41, this is going to balance out. I think it's going to balance out. But I think in the early war years, it's a mistake to put the focus there. We'll see how this plays out. So anyway, I have nothing left to add. My next video will be Spoils of War.